Coming up tonight, Sebastian goes back to school. HAAS can't afford a crash. Bonotto says some wise words. 4 DRS zones in Australia. And the F1 budget cap. Welcome to the F1 Pitbox.
They exist in a world beyond ours. This is Formula One.
Welcome everybody, this is the F1 Pitbox. It's going to be a slightly shorter show this evening and without Gary Formato. And the reason it's going to be a slightly shorter show because playing on my Denon Prime 4 over here is Carter Barnard from Umhlali, who's the first in the first team rugby, and he's playing in the Saints Junior Festival. Come say hello. Come on, Carter. Here we go. We've got young Carter Barnard here. He's a winger. There we go. Come in the picture. There we go. Wave at everybody. So he's going to be playing rugby, and I'm going to be watching rugby when you actually watch this. But Max is back. Yes, he's back. And man, that was an unbelievable race that we saw in Saudi Arabia between him and Charles Leclerc. Some really brilliant driving. And one has to beg the question as to whether or not he would have given as much space to Lewis Hamilton as he did to Charles Leclerc. Up for debate, but I'm sure during the course of the season, we will see either Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton battling, or Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton battling with everybody, because I'm sure they're going to bounce back as well. So quite amazing, fantastic Grand Prix. Got to feel a little bit for Sergio Perez in the Grand Prix. Got his first ever pole position in his 200th Grand Prix, 280th Grand Prix. And then unfortunately with the safety car, just caught him out. So maybe a potential win for Sergio Perez, but it wasn't to be. Red Bull Racing, still very heavy though in terms of its weight. It seems as though every one of the manufacturers and cars on the grid has got a weight problem, besides Alfa Romeo, so they say. But they say that Red Bull is the heavier out of the top three at the moment: Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull. And they predict that to lose 1 kilogram of weight could cost as much as $200,000. So if you want to lose 10 kilograms, well, you're looking at something like $2 million. And that all comes down to the budget cap, which we'll get to in a short while. Staying with Saudi Arabia, this was an horrific accident for Mick Schumacher. As you can see just from the picture, the catastrophic disaster of his car, and eventually the team decided that it wasn't actually worth building the car, and that's why he didn't race. He didn't race because of any medical reason. He raced because they couldn't actually fix that car. Also, the one thing that I did notice about Mick Schumacher is he did look pretty stunned by the accident that took place. 33 Gs is what they say his body went through during that crash. The great thing, he's okay, and he's in Australia. He's having a great time. He went to the Australian Zoo in Melbourne, met Steve Irwin's son. He's been surfing all over the place, but he's never driven the circuit before. It brings me to another little issue that we have with the HAAS team, and that is that they cannot afford a crash this weekend. And I'll tell you the reason why. None of the teams, of course, want to crash. But HAAS do not have any spare chassis down in Australia, which could be problematic. Don't forget, this is a street circuit. And we could have, the potential of cars crashing. So hopefully HAAS keep it out of the walls. They don't want Kevin Magnussen or they want Mick Schumacher to have an accident. So let's hope everything goes okay for them this coming weekend. And Kevin Magnussen has the opportunity to score 3 races in a row, which he's never ever done in his career. couple of weeks ago, we got the big news that Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, is back on the calendar in 2023. I think it's going to be a tremendous amount of excitement. I don't even think anybody will be able to get tickets. But looking at the circuit design, that long straight from turn 9 all the way to turn 11 is basically the strip of Las Vegas. Anybody who's been to Las Vegas will know that that is basically the whole strip. And then, of course, that was just the information that was confirmed. Las Vegas back on the calendar. Don't forget, in a couple of weeks from now, we have Miami, which looks outstanding as well. So the Americans really going out for these Grand Prix. There's been a lot of chatter about engines, especially after the first 2 races. All of a sudden, Mercedes don't have the power. What has gone wrong? Ferrari seem to have a little bit of an edge over everybody else. Well, what does it actually all mean? So, we'll show a picture of the Ferrari engine. But just to let you know, Nicholas Tombazis, who used to work for Ferrari many, many years ago, he is the head of single-seaters. And he has confirmed, and listen to this very, very carefully, he has confirmed that the power unit across the grid is largely similar as the power unit development freeze has come into effect. The Formula One engine manufacturers, Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault, and Red Bull powertrains, have all designed their brand new 2022 power units, being aware that the engine rules and regulations will remain the same until the proposed arrival of Formula One's new engine specification, which should take place in 2026. So it seems as though every team and manufacturer has the same amount of power. It's just a question of how are they going to deploy it as we get further on. And at the moment, it seems as though porpoising, setup, ride height is affecting the engine potential. Mattia Binotto has also come out with something that I think is very, very valid and something that we should all take heed of. He's come out and say, let's remember that according to the new rules, all teams were forbidden to work on the new cars in the wind tunnel until January the 1st, 2021. It is true that we are able to focus on 2022 earlier than other teams last year because of where they landed up in the position. He went to say this, and I really think that we should watch out for this very, very carefully. I will say more. Only after 5 races will we know which team is the one that really has done the best job on the 2022 car. Let us not forget that traditionally, when we get to Spain in the Barcelona Grand Prix, that is when all of the teams come with new updates. Okay. I don't think that is going to change. So we will see some updates here in Australia. We might see something small in at Imola. But thereafterwards, once we finish Miami and then we go to Barcelona, that is when we're going to know what is going on. That also comes down to the budget cap. And I've been reading the document, and it's too much lawyer speak for me, but it's 80 odd pages on how this budget cap works. And I really do hope that the teams monitor themselves and that the FIA also are very transparent together with the teams as to how this money is used. We know that some teams are on the back foot, and that means they have to apply a lot more into R&D, developing new front wings, rear wings, new floors. What do these cost? And that's something that I think I would like to know, so that we don't all of a sudden have a problem where cars are completely redesigned during 2022 and we all go, oh, but hold on a second, they $100 million over the budget. How is it going to work? I think it's something the FIA, together with the teams, have to be very, very cautious about. Great to see that Alpine will be back in their traditional colors of blue and pink this weekend. Don't forget, the first 2 Grand Prix, they only wore pink livery for their sponsor BWT. One concern for this team, though, however, is that Fernando Alonso is now going to be using his 3rd internal combustion engine, which I think is a bit of a problem for the team, and it may well be that they'll get into penalties sooner than later because of these engine maladies that they have at present. Also, Mercedes this weekend, we're expecting quite a lot from them. There has been rumor that they're going to come with a whole brand new rear wing, but up until now, nobody's seen it in Australia. But there's still, we still got Friday to have a look, and perhaps even Saturday. But more than likely, they will have a new floor. They've got to try and iron out this porpoising issue that they have. However, George Russell still had a very, very strong Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia. So it was more of a setup for Lewis Hamilton as an issue than anything else. And guess who's back? Sebastian Vettel, of course, is back. He's missed the first 2 races because of COVID. But Seb is back sporting a lot of hair and a lot of facial hair as well. My only concern about this, and it's a pity that Gary's not here because I would have liked to have gotten his opinion on this as well. If Aston Martin can't sort out that car quick enough for him, I don't know if we're going to see Sebastian Vettel in Formula One in 2023, which would be very sad. I don't think he's there just as a journeyman. He wants to go out there and try and win races. Aston Martin have got quite a steep hill to climb. Another driver who seems to be a little bit on the back foot, if you consider how brilliant he was in 2021, he actually was better than Charles Leclerc in terms of points finishes for Ferrari. However, Carlos Sainz this season has been pretty outperformed by Charles Leclerc at the moment. And his focus is getting his first win. That is what he wants more than anything else. The other thing with the 2 Ferrari drivers is that a lot of teams would be hoping that Sainz would take points from Leclerc and Leclerc would take points from Sainz. But at the moment, it seems as though Leclerc is just getting the most amount of points. So teams like Red Bull really want Sainz to do better for Ferrari. Ferrari people want Leclerc to maintain this sort of stranglehold after only 2 races and then eventually get Carlos Sainz to work for him. But we have got a long, long, long way to go before we start talking team orders. This weekend, of course, Aussie, and that is Daniel Ricciardo back to his home race. So many fans out there to see him as well. He's just loving the experience of being back in his home country. Don't forget, 2020, a couple of hours before free practice, the Grand Prix got cancelled. McLaren withdrew because one of their members had COVID. Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen were already on an aeroplane leaving Australia before it was even announced that it was cancelled. And from there, of course, the whole world shut down. So great to see 2 years later that things are sort of back to normal and we're going racing in Melbourne. So this weekend, of course, the Melbourne Grand Prix, there are some track changes just to have a look at what's happened on the screen. Turn 1 is widened, turn 3 is widened, turn 6 is widened quite a lot. The chicane is deleted and we have a new fast complex from 8 all the way through until 11, and that's another DRS zone as well. We have a longer straight turn 13, which is also another DRS zone. Turn 15 is widened as well, and the pit lane has been widened as well. Traditionally, we've only ever had 60 kilometers in the pit lane. This year, they're allowed to go at 80 kilometers. The big news, of course, is that we have 4 DRS zones this weekend. Now, I'm not sure if we need 4. We've seen how the drivers have been playing with these DRS zones in the first couple of races. We don't want it too artificial. But Melbourne has been notoriously difficult to overtake on. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers go out and use these DRS zones, whether or not they can use the one to surprise another driver in the next DRS zone. But I do expect with these DRS zones, with the wing be allowed to being open, that we're going to see some extraordinarily fast times around the circuit of Albert Park this weekend. I think we're in for a fascinating Grand Prix. Just to let you know, and these are South African times, going to watch this weekend starting tomorrow morning, bright and early, 5 a.m. first free practice, 8 a.m. second free practice on Saturday, 5 a.m. third free practice, qualifying at 8 a.m. and the race is going to be at 7 a.m. on Sunday this this weekend. I think it is going to be wonderful. I would hate to make any kind of prediction, but on what we've seen in the first two races, it's still going to be, in my opinion, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. All depends on what upgrades are brought. Thanks for joining me, as always, on the F1 Pitbox. And I look forward to chatting to you over the course of the weekend, where I'm sure we'll have lots to discuss. Let's go racing.
They exist in a world beyond ours.